Good afternoon again. Pastor Steve here. Sunday afternoon, September. Feels like September. Who knows what month it is? January the 24th, with Exploring the Commandments Part 2. Having missed last weekend being out of town, going to go ahead and double up this weekend for you guys to work with the material as you have opportunity in the current pace of your lives. And we're going to continue with our new format here of me recording a few instructions along the way and guiding you through the material using a PowerPoint instruction. Look forward to having you let me know how this is going for you. If there's anything more I can be doing to make it helpful and meaningful for you. Keep my hat straight there. Let's go ahead then and get started. Exploring the Commandments 2. Key words that we'll have in the back of our minds for this session as we deal with commandments number 4, number 5, and number 6. You'll remember in our introductory session how we talked about all the commandments can be summed up with love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. And the first 3 go on that tablet for God. Honor, or you have only one God with no idols. Don't take the Lord's name in vain, and keep the Sabbath. And then the second tablet begins all the commandments on how we love our neighbor as a great way to show how much we love God. Honor our mother and father. Don't kill. Don't commit adultery for today. Big part of those commandments is respect, to show consideration, thoughtfulness for somebody or something, to treat something as it's got value, worthy of your consideration. Nurture is just another word for care, to see that another person or another situation has all it needs to be successful and whole. Interrelatedness is an acknowledgement that all of us as people are related to other people and the world in which we live, that none of us lives in isolation of all that. And that's why we have these commandments to help us understand the best way to be interrelated with each other and the world around us. And then human sexuality, the physical, emotional elements that God gives us as loving human beings to share with another in the trust of faithfulness in the midst of that relationship. So those will be the key words sort of behind a lot of our work on this session. Here's our opening prayer for the session. I hope you might join me as we offer it together. The earth is the Lord's and all that is in it, the world and those who live in it. Therefore, lead a life worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and compassion, with patience, bearing with one another in love, making every effort to maintain the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. By the grace of God. Amen. All right. Faith story today is going to be focused on the 4th commandment, honor your father and your mother. And I'm going to tell a story of when I was actually overwhelmed with the gift that my parents were to me and how it sort of shaped my life and my relationship with them going forward. I played baseball growing up, was a pretty decent catcher. My mom would never, though, come to watch a game where I played catcher because she was always afraid that I would get hurt. I also played third base and left field. So my freshman year of high school, I was playing third base instead of catcher. And the opposing team, we were down in Grove City, runner on second starts to steal third. Keith Story, who happened to be catching that day, threw the ball down to me, but he threw it way left toward the second base side of third base. And I dove to stop that ball just as the runner was coming my way. And he slid on top of my arm and he broke off my funny bone. Oh, if you ever hit your funny bone, it sort of tingles. This felt like I had a cajillion spikes, needles thrust into my forearm. It really hurt. And I was done for the day. Of course, my mom didn't have to worry about seeing it because she thought I was catching and wasn't there anyway. I did go to the hospital that night, and they found out I had broken my funny bone off, that little knot in your elbow, and they had to tap it back on. And I had to stay overnight before the surgery the next day. And I was laying there in the hospital bed with my parents at my side, caring for me the way they always did. And I was at a loss for words. I, I even to say the words "I love you" or "I appreciate you" were insufficient for everything I felt for my parents at that time. And so finally I said, I'm going to live my life in a way that it might give honor to you. I have to live my love, because words are not sufficient for how I feel about that. Um, and it's been important for me, and have appreciated the role my parents have played in my life throughout, even as I appreciate the role your parents have played for you and continue to do so. Glad to be a part of the family with you in that regard. Also, maybe an opportunity here to talk about a big part of this commandment being two. We touched on it last in the introductory session a couple Sundays ago. You remember how many retirement center nursing homes there were back at the time that God gave the Ten Commandments? None. So as parents got older, what is the security system that is going to help keep them safe, keep them well, and care for their needs? Well, their children coming up after them. So honor your father and mother is also an acknowledgement that our parents are worthy of our care, even as they age. And it's our opportunity to care for them after they've cared for us in so many wonderful ways. My faith story: honoring my parents after a broken funny bone in a baseball game. We'll want to be using our Bible and our catechism books again today, and I'll have worksheets uploaded as well that you can look at. 3 Bible passages for you, one for each of the commandments that we're studying this weekend. First is John 2:1-12. It's the story of the wedding at Cana, when Jesus turns water into wine. But in this instance, we're going to focus on the relationship between Jesus and his mother. His mother is the one who tells him to change water into wine, and his response to that, and whether he does it and how he does it. So take a look at that passage. How does Jesus honor his mom? And then do some thinking about what are the ways that you honor your parents. Next is Matthew 5:17-48. And it is Jesus teaching about the commandments and how they strive to give us the absolute best of life. It's not like the lowest bar we have to meet in order for God to love us. No, it's the very best, the very most that we can do with and for each other to keep each other well. So it's going to talk about extra ways of keeping the commandments. But it's really what the commandments have been about forever. It's never been about just getting by, but doing what you can to honor your parents, doing what you can to not murder, which means helping others instead of murdering, and not calling them names or anything like that either. And in terms of adultery, being faithful to one's spouse and with one's body and your sexuality therein, but even in your thoughts, and not objectifying other people and thinking poorly about them as well. In 2 Samuel is the story of David and Bathsheba, who was actually married to an army general for David when he first saw her, and decided he wanted to have her as his wife, and the adultery that happened in making that take place. So please take a look at that and see if you can identify who was unfaithful in the course of that story. And then think back to who all was hurt by the adultery. Because even though adultery might involve 2 people, 3 the one that's left out, lots of people can be hurt when we're not faithful to our promises, especially the way we share ourselves and our bodies with others. So those are the 3 Bible passages I offer for you to take a look at this week. Some background in each of those 3 commandments. And 2, I'm going to ask that you open up your catechism book again to page 296. That's the area where you'll find the 10 commandments. This week, read 4, 5, and 6 and what they mean. Going to hit it again. What are those 7-word phrases that begin each explanation? and think of how that might be a great mantra to help keep us um, focused on our God. And think too, I'll give you a little hint. One of those words is fear. Now, does that mean to be scared, or is fear in terms of respect, as we talked about before? How we help others understand how appreciated and valued and worthy that they are. And that, of course, is the definition of fear that we're using in um, this phrase that starts each explanation. And likewise, again, each of these three commandments, like before, encourages us to do certain activities and not to do certain activities. So see if you can figure out both sides of that equation for each of these three commandments. All right, time for our quiz show. Loving and honoring others includes listening attentively when they are talking to you, interpreting everything they do in the best possible way when talking about them. Sort of means don't gossip about them. Faithfulness in carrying out your share of household responsibilities. Or D, all of the above. Well, if you said all of the above, that's what I'm saying too. Those are all ways we can love and honor, especially our parents. Having sex with someone else besides your spouse is the only way of being unfaithful. Well, think back to that passage from Matthew and see if it gives you other ideas. And even that is false, because even the way we think about other people in ways that objectify them and don't treat them with honor is not healthy for us at all. Number 3, sexual sin is the one thing Jesus cannot absolutely tolerate. There is no forgiveness for this sin. That, of course, is false, because everything is forgivable except rejecting the forgiveness that God might give to us. So, yes, even that is true. It's also an opportunity for me to say, as your pastor, that if you find yourself in a situation where your sexuality is concerned and you feel uncomfortable about something, you want to talk or confess about that, please know that I am available for you to discuss the situation might be, and to assure you of your beloved nature as one of God's children, forgiveness that's available to you, and encouragement to live into that love more fully going forward. So the door is never closed on this or any other matter. Number 4, God wants us to keep sexual relations within the confines of marriage because A, God's an old crab who likes to impose burdensome rules. B, God knows sex affects us physically and emotionally and doesn't want us to get hurt. C, marriage is a safe zone for sex because it's backed by the promise of faithfulness. D, both B and C. Yeah, God gives us this commandment because God knows this gift of sexuality also has vulnerability that could lead us to being hurt if we don't treat it in a healthy kind of way. God gives us marriage by which to celebrate and enjoy and appreciate that gift that God has given us. Number 5, you have to be married in a church. Nope, you don't have to be married in a church. Actually, you don't even have to be married by a pastor anymore. Your pastor would like to do that and to celebrate God's love in your life, but you can have a judge, a magistrate, perform your marriage really wherever you like. Not all marriages are church marriages. Some are just civil unions outside of the church even. It is possible to kill someone without actually physically ending their life. True. Anytime you call somebody a name or you gossip about them or you do anything that limits their life um, in some way, that is also killing them in a sense. It's what the commandment is talking about. Um, Withholding resources, food, water from somebody could be killing them. Physically abusing somebody um, kills them in their sense of identity and worth. Calling them names all ways that you can kill without physically ending their life. All of life is interrelated. Everything that exists is a piece of an integrated universe. I say true also. We can't separate ourselves from the universe that God has created for us and that God shares with us. And number 8, the following is a way to help neighbors in all their physical needs. Bring them dinner. A. B. Rake their leaves. C. Care for them when they're sick. D. All of the above. All of the above. And I bet you could figure out some other ways too that you might help neighbors with their physical needs also. That's our show, What You Know quiz show for the day. Last few activities for you on this topic and these particular commandments. In your Here We Stand book, like you to read the top 10 attributes to look for in a spouse. You'll find that on page 225 to 227. Know you're early in that process in terms of courtship, but believe me, it'll be here before you know it, and just give you some ideas to think about as you're trying to decide who you're going to love with self-giving Christ-like love and receive that same love back, and how you might be looking for somebody that might work well with. As your life connection for this week, would invite you to take some time and review sexual images that you see on TV or movies or the internet, and which ones are healthy and good and which ones are not. Which ones treat men or women as objects rather than human beings. Which ones belittle, which ones lift up, and which ones are gratifying for folks. I think if you do pay attention, you'll find there are a lot out there, and it's worthy to be clear as to what they're trying to communicate through the image that you see, and even to see how much they're using it to try to sell you something, maybe to make you look in a certain way, or want to be associated with somebody that looks in a certain way. And lastly, another word game this week. There's a crossword puzzle on the back side of the activity page of Exploring the Commandments Part 2. I know you all are aware of it by now, but the answers are all down along the bottom. Try to do it without the answers and then just check them at the end. And be another great review for these first 3 commandments on the second tablet of loving neighbor as we love our God, following the first 3 commandments. Well, I really do miss being with everybody in person. I hope these resources are helpful to you in some way so that we can keep up on your preparations for the wonderful occasion of your confirmation. And we'll look forward to seeing you online, if not seeing you in person sometime soon. Take care. Be well. We'll see you again. Bye-bye.